The multi-billion-dollar self-help industry is built on a single, secret flaw. It's a flaw so deep, it renders most of our efforts useless, turning our quest for growth into a frustrating cycle of hope and disappointment. And strangely, the clearest diagnosis of this modern problem comes not from a psychologist or a neuroscientist, but from a 13th century Sufi master, Saadi of Shiraz, and a strange, dark parable about a dead donkey's skull. What was his secret, and how does it expose the lie at the heart of our desperate search for personal growth? We live in a marketplace of transformation. We are promised that the right book, the right morning routine, the right productivity app, the right 5-step formula will be the key to unlock the life we desire. We are told to chant affirmations, to visualize success, to hack our biology, to optimize our every waking moment. We collect these tools and techniques like charms, hoping they will ward off failure, anxiety, and unhappiness. Yet, for so many of us, the garden of our life remains stubbornly untended. The weeds of our old habits persist, and the fruits of peace and fulfillment remain elusive. We find ourselves with a shelf full of solutions, but a soul that is still hungry. This is the very predicament that Saadi, a master of human nature, observed centuries ago. He was not just a poet, he was a spiritual realist, a physician of the soul who used humor and startling fables to cut through our most cherished illusions. He saw our tendency to mistake the decoration for the discipline, the symbol for the substance. And in one short, unforgettable story, he gave us a timeless diagnostic tool to examine our own lives. This journey we are about to take is an invitation to hold Saadi's wisdom like a mirror. We will explore his simple parable and use its light to investigate the very foundations of our own efforts to change. The promise is not another technique to add to your collection, but a profound shift in perspective that may render most of that collection obsolete. It is an invitation to stop looking for the right magic charm and to start cultivating the real, living magic within you. So let us listen closely to the wisdom echoing from a Persian garden, for it may hold the secret to our own flourishing. Saadi's genius was his ability to compress a universe of meaning into a few lines of story. His wisdom is not delivered in a lecture, but in a living image that plants itself in the mind and grows. The parable is simple, almost comical, yet its implications are vast. It goes like this. A farmer's donkey, after a long life of labor, finally died. The farmer, seeking some use from this misfortune, decided to take the donkey's head and mount its sun-bleached skull on a pole at the edge of his garden. He believed it would function as a talisman, a nazaralik, a charm to ward off the evil eye and protect his crops from misfortune. One day, a wise old man, a man who had seen the patterns of the world and understood the deep currents of cause and effect, happened to be passing by. He saw the skull perched atop the pole, looked at the garden, and a knowing smile spread across his face. He turned to the farmer and said, with a voice that was not cruel, but filled with a profound and piercing clarity, "My friend, tell me something. This donkey, when it was alive, with all its muscle and wit, could not save its own head and hide from the stick. It lived a life of toil and died covered in wounds. How can you possibly believe that its dried, dead skull now has the power to protect your garden?" Let us pause here and feel the full weight of that question. It is perhaps one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves on the path of personal development. The donkey's skull is the central metaphor, and it represents one of the most seductive and dangerous traps for the human mind: the belief in the external, lifeless fix.
The skull is any tool, technique, system, or ritual that we adopt, believing it has some inherent magical power to transform our reality, while being completely disconnected from any living internal source of power. It is the form without the essence. It is the decoration we use to avoid the difficult work of cultivation. And our modern world is a vast marketplace of donkey's skulls. Think of the person who chants the affirmation, "I am worthy and loved," 10 times in the mirror, yet has not done the deep, courageous inner work of excavating the childhood wounds and core beliefs that scream, "I am not enough." The affirmation is the skull. The unexamined pain is the untended garden. The words are hollow because they are not connected to a living internal reality. They are an attempt to ward off the evil eye of negative self-talk without addressing its source. Consider the obsession with productivity systems. We spend hours, even days, setting up the perfect digital task manager, color-coding our projects, and designing the ideal workflow. We acquire the app, the planner, the system, the perfect skull, believing it will save us from procrastination. But we avoid the real work, which is to sit in the quiet discomfort and ask ourselves, why am I procrastinating? What am I afraid of? What is the resistance in my own soul that is preventing me from doing what I know I must do? The donkey, when it was alive, could not escape its own burdens. The productivity app, designed by someone else to manage their burdens, cannot magically resolve yours. It is a lifeless tool until it is animated by your own inner clarity and will. This extends to the very books we read. How many of us have bought shelves full of books on mindfulness, philosophy, and spirituality? The book is purchased, the box is checked, and the skull is placed on the shelf. It serves as a symbol that we are working on ourselves. But the wisdom remains trapped on the page, unlived, unintegrated. The act of acquiring the information has been mistaken for the act of transformation. The living donkey was the author's intense struggle, their years of practice and contemplation. Our mistake is believing that by possessing its skull, the book, we can somehow absorb that living experience without undergoing our own. The wise man's critique is devastatingly precise. He points to the donkey's lived reality. It couldn't save its own head and hide from the stick. This is the diagnostic question we must apply to our tools and our teachers. Is the wisdom we are trying to apply alive? Does it come from a source that has demonstrated its own freedom, its own flourishing? Or are we borrowing the strategies of those who were themselves still subject to the stick of their own anxieties, compulsions, and unresolved issues? We follow the 7 habits of a highly effective person, but we fail to cultivate the underlying character from which those habits naturally arise. We adopt the diet of a healthy community, but we fail to cultivate the community, the shared values and the spiritual centeredness that made the diet an effortless expression of their way of life. We are trying to import the skull, the external behavior, without understanding the living heart that pumped blood through the original creature. Saadi's lesson is clear. A dead relic cannot protect or nourish a living garden. You cannot use a result to create a result. You must go deeper to the living cause.
So, what is the alternative? If the path of collecting talismans is a dead end, where does the wise man direct our attention? He doesn't say it explicitly, but his gesture implies everything. By laughing at the skull, he directs the farmer's and our gaze back to the garden itself. The message is a profound shift in orientation. Stop trying to manage the external frets and start focusing on the internal vitality. Stop decorating the fences and start cultivating the soil. True growth, in Saadi's view, is not a magical act, but an agricultural one. It is the slow, patient, and sometimes difficult work of tending the garden of one's own character. This is an inside-out philosophy. It aligns perfectly with the core tenets of Stoicism, which teaches us to focus only on what is within our control, our thoughts, our judgments, our character, and to accept what is not. The farmer, in his superstition, is trying to control the uncontrollable, the evil eye, luck, misfortune, with a useless object. The Stoic sage would advise him to ignore the evil eye entirely and focus on becoming a better, more resilient, more skillful gardener. A healthy, vibrant garden, after all, is its own best protection. It has a natural immunity that a flimsy talisman can never provide. Similarly, this wisdom resonates with the foundational principles of modern therapeutic practices, like cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT doesn't work by simply layering positive thoughts over negative ones, like placing a flower garland on the donkey's skull. It works by helping the individual dig into the soil of their mind to identify and challenge the distorted core beliefs, the weeds, that are poisoning the entire system. It is deep, internal agricultural work. The Sufi tradition has a beautiful term for this inner cultivation, adab. It is often translated as etiquette, but it means something much deeper. It is the cultivation of a refined character, a state of being where one's actions, words, and even thoughts are aligned with truth, beauty, and goodness. It is the development of virtues like patience, gratitude, courage, and compassion, not as abstract ideas, but as living muscles in the soul. This is the real work. It is less glamorous than buying a new book or downloading a new app. It requires us to show up, day after day, and tend to our inner state. It means choosing patience when we feel the flash of anger. It means choosing courage when we want to retreat into fear. It means choosing honesty when a convenient lie presents itself. Each of these small, conscious choices is like pulling a weed or watering a seed in the garden of the soul. This path requires what Saadi called akal, which is not just raw intelligence, but a living, perceptive wisdom. It is the ability to see things as they are, to discern the difference between a living principle and a dead skull. It is the quiet inner voice that knows with unshakable certainty that peace cannot be found in a perfectly organized schedule, but only in a peaceful heart. It knows that confidence cannot be manufactured by an affirmation, but only earned through acts of courage. This is the wisdom of the gardener, who understands that you cannot force a seed to grow, but you can, and you must, create the conditions for its flourishing. Let us now bring the light of this parable into the garden of your own life. This is a moment for gentle, courageous honesty. There is no need for judgment, only for the clear-sighted wisdom of the old man.
Take a slow, deep breath. Settle into your body, into this present moment. Let the noise of the world recede, and allow the quiet space of self-reflection to open within you. First, I invite you to scan the landscape of your life and your personal growth efforts. Ask yourself, what are my donkey skulls? What are the external things I am relying on for my inner well-being? Is it a morning routine that I perform mechanically, without presence or heart? Is it a collection of books that I'm proud to own, but have failed to truly live? Is it a positive quote I post online while my inner world remains in turmoil? Is it the approval of others, which I seek like a magical charm to ward off my own insecurity? Be honest. See them clearly. These are the talismans you have placed on the fences of your life. Acknowledge them without shame. We all do this. It is a natural human tendency to seek the easy, external solution. But seeing them for what they are, lifeless skulls, is the first, most powerful step
toward real transformation. You are not renouncing them, but seeing through them. Now, shift your attention away from the fence and turn your gaze inward to the soil itself, the rich, fertile, and sacred ground of your own character. This is the garden that only you can tend. Ask yourself, what is the one quality, the one inner virtue that my soul is asking me to cultivate right now? Perhaps it is patience, the willingness to allow things to unfold in their own time without force or frustration. Perhaps it is courage, the courage to have a difficult conversation, to set a boundary, to face a fear you have been avoiding. Perhaps it is self-compassion, the ability to treat your own struggles and setbacks with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. Perhaps it is presence, the simple, profound act of putting down your phone, looking up, and being fully where you are with who you are with. Choose just one. Don't try to overhaul the entire garden at once. The wise gardener knows that transformation happens one seed, one weed, one conscious act at a time. What is one small, concrete action you could take this week to water that seed? Not a grand gesture, but a tiny, almost secret act of cultivation. If it is patience, it might be taking 3 deep breaths before responding in traffic. If it is courage, it might be writing down the first sentence of that email you need to send. If it is self-compassion, it might be taking 5 minutes to do nothing but sit and be with yourself when you feel overwhelmed. Feel the difference. The search for a skull is frantic and anxious. The work of a gardener is quiet, deliberate, and grounded. It is a work of love. The timeless wisdom of Saadi of Shiraz does not offer us a new hack or a shortcut. It offers us something far more valuable: the truth. The truth is that there is no escape from the inner work. There is no talisman, no formula, no dead relic that can do for us what we must do for ourselves. We cannot decorate our way to a transformed life. Personal development is not an act of acquisition. It is an act of cultivation. It is the slow, patient, and sacred process of tending the garden of our soul. It means we must be willing to get our hands dirty, to pull the weeds of our destructive habits, to water the seeds of our highest virtues, and to trust in the natural, organic process of growth. The farmer's mistake was a simple one. He was looking for a dead solution to a living problem. The moment we stop searching for the next donkey's skull is the moment we can finally begin the real and rewarding work of a gardener. The power to create a life of beauty, resilience, and flourishing is not out there in the next book, the next seminar, or the next guru. It has been within you all along, dormant in the soil of your own being, waiting for you to simply turn your attention inward, pick up your tools, and begin. The garden is ready.